So today we're going to be solving the week 4 math AMS quiz. Let's start. So the above function D models the distance in meters Jerry has to swim to reach the end line in a competition after swimming for t seconds. About how many meters can Jerry swim each second? So the equation we have is dt equals negative 0.08 t plus 50. So it's asking us how many meters can Jerry swim each second. So if it's d per t, so this is the distance he can swim for every t. So for every t seconds, Jerry can swim 0.08 meters. And why didn't we say negative 0.08 meters? It's because distance is scalar quantity, it's not vector, so you can't have a negative distance. You can either go forward or backwards, but the distance is the same. Now let's move on. Alan lives in a town at an altitude of 500 feet above sea level. He drives from his home uphill a mountainous road to visit a friend. For each 3-mile drive uphill, the altitude increases by 50 feet. Build a function h that models Alan's altitude in feet relative to sea level after driving x miles from home. So in this question, when you're solving, it gives you 2 boxes and you need to fill them out. So it tells you for each, this is your keyword, 3 miles increases by 50 feet. So for each 3 miles, which means if you want to know how many miles did they drive, you need to do 50 feet for each 3 miles times how many miles? X. So when it says for each 3 miles altitude increases by 50, you do 50 divided how many miles uphill you need to drive for each, the thing after for each, and that's your 2 boxes. After it comes X. And this, it was given. Okay, so here they're telling us to analyze a linear function. The given function is graphed by the xy plane. Find the axis, intercepts, and the slope of the graph. So we know that fx, or like it's y equals mx plus b. M is always the slope. B is the y-intercept. So they want us to find the slope. We said m is always the slope. So the thing before x is the slope, so it's negative 2. The x-intercept means when y is 0 or f of x is 0, what is x? So when this is 0, what is x? So negative 2x plus 3, making it negative 2x equals negative 3. Negative goes with negative, so 2x equals 3. X equals 3 over 2, which is 1.5. So when y is 0, x is 1.5. Y-intercept is the opposite. Y-intercept is what is y when x is 0. So what you do here is you replace the x by 0. So negative 2 into 0 plus 3 equals f of x. So negative 2 into 0 is 0 plus 3. So the answer is 3. So when x is 0, y is 3. Let's move on. So for this question, we have a cubic functions graph, and they're asking us which of the following is the equation for this graph. So we need to look at this graph and we need to find the x-intercept, or the root, which is the point where on the graph where the slope is touching x, which here it's negative 3. Now, since in this graph that we were given, we need to see how many roots do we have. We have 1 root. It's negative 3. So for this function, we only can have 1 root. You cannot have more than 1 root, or real root. So what we do is we need to look at our equations that we were given that we find the equation that has only one root, and that one root is equal to -3. If we find the equation that has both of these, then we found our answer. Of course, these are when it's raised to the power of 1. They must be raised to the power of 1. Now, let's see our equations. Okay, so for this equation, let's see if it gives us a root as in a root that's -3. So x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals -3. So it fulfilled our first condition of it being one root and it being -3, but as we can see, it's not raised to the first power, it's not raised to power 1. It's raised to power 3, so that means we cannot take it and it is wrong. Now let's see this one. Let's see the first. What's the root for it? So x minus 3 equals 0. So x equals 3. Our root is +3, not -3. So this is wrong. It should be -3. But let's continue solving anyways. Let's see if we have a second root. So x squared plus 9 equals 0. So x squared equals -9. And okay, so here we don't have another root because you can't have anything powered and making a negative. So this fulfills one condition, but it doesn't fulfill the other, so this is wrong. Now let's see this one. X minus 3 equals 0, so x equals 3. This does not fulfill the first condition. Let's see if it fulfills the second one. X squared minus 9 equals 0, so x squared equals 9. X equals radical 9, so it's positive -3. So here we have more than one real root, meaning we have 3 and positive and -3. So that means first of all, our root isn't -3 and we have more than one. So let's see the last condition. So x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals -3. That fulfills our first condition because it's raised to the power of 1. Now our second one, x squared plus 9 equals 0. So x squared equals -9, and we cannot have anything squared equal to a negative number, meaning this is not a real root. So we only have one real root, which is -3. So it ticks off all our requirements or what we need to find the answer. So this is the correct answer. Moving on. Oh, I skipped a question. Okay, so here they gave us a graph or like a slope, and they want us to graph it or give us they want us to give the equation for this graph. So what we first have to do is we need to find 2 points on the graph. So here we have 0 and 5, and we have 4, 0. These are our 2 points. Now we need to find the slope. To find the slope, we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. For y and x, 2 and 1, you choose which one you need to start with, but you need to stay consistent with it. I'm gonna start with this to be our y2. So y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is 4. We get 5 over -4. So -5 over 4, and that's our slope. So because it's y equals mx plus b. So is -5 over 4. Now to find b, we need to use the point slope, like the theorem. So it's y minus y0 equals m into x minus x0. So So what this means is you choose any one of your set of 2 points. I'm gonna choose this one since it's easier for me to work with now, and we're gonna use it. So y minus y0 is 0 here, because we chose this set of points to use. You can use the other one, but I prefer you use this one now. So minus 0 equals m, which is our slope, negative 5 over 4 into x minus x0, which is 4. So y minus 0, so y equals negative 5 over 4x minus 4. So you multiply it by negative 4, you get positive 5. Now, as we can see in this equation, they want us to keep x and y on the same side of the equation. And they want us to keep anything without a letter on the other side. So we need to move this to this side. So you're going to end up with 5 over 4, x plus y equals 5. Now, if you can look at the last part of this, it isn't matching with this. You need the 5 to turn into a 20. How do you get the 5 to a 20? You need to multiply this by 4, right? But you can't multiply one part of your equation and leave out the rest. So you're going to have to multiply this part by 4 and this part by 4. So you're going to have to cancel this with this. You're going to be left with 5x plus 4y equals 20. Does this match our equation given, or the form of the equation given? Yes, it does. So that's your final answer. Let's move on. So here you have a linear function defined by such that f of x decreases by 8 units for every 4 units. So negative 8 for every 4. Increase in x. So you decrease by 8 for every positive 4 in x. So the graph, it has a y-intercept of 200. So this is our slope, because it tells you increase in x. So this is the slope. And they told you b. b is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is 200. Negative 8 over 4 is the same as writing negative 2x. And the y-intercept is 200. So y equals mx plus b, of course. b is 200 and m is negative 2, which is our slope because it decreases by 8 units for every 4. So what that means is that's your answer, but they want you to put the y-intercept before the slope. So just switch them around. So y equals 200 minus 2x. It's the same thing, by the way. So that's how you get your answer for this one. Let's move on. Okay. For this question, it's telling us Drew is driving his car to his parents' home, and the table shows the distance d in kilometers remaining to reach his parents' house after t minutes of driving. Assuming that the relationship between d and t is linear, what's the value of k? For this question, we need to look at the graph and we need to analyze the numbers. So when the starting point a is 65. So when you added 15 to the time, it decreased by 8. When you added 15 to the time, it decreased by 8. So what if you add another 30 to the time? So if you decreased it by 15, it decreases by minus 8. If you decrease another 2 15s, so another 15 and then 15 again, so you decreased it by 30. How many 15s is in 30? It's 2. So what do you have to do? It's gonna be 2, because you decreased it by another 2 15s, times how much you get by decreasing 1 15, which is 8. You get 16, negative 16. So you're gonna decrease it by 16. You take your original value and you decrease it by 16. You take 57 and you subtract from it another 16. You're gonna be left with 51. So that's how you solve it. So again, what do? Is we find the difference between the first two numbers, which is negative 8. that's when you add 15 to the time. If you add another 30 to the time, you're adding 2 more 15s. So 2 more 15s make 2 times 8, which is how much you subtracted from the first addition of 15 minutes or seconds, whatever it's in. Then when you get 16, you subtract it from 57, you get your answer. Now let's move on. Okay, for this question, it can be solved in 2 ways. One when you're keeping it in radians, and one while you're using degrees. They're the same way, but one you're working with radians, the other is in degrees. So we know that they're telling us sine theta equals radical 3 over 2. We know that the theta, or the angle that gives us a sine of radical 3 over 2 is pi over 3. Memorize this. Pi over 3 is the same as 60 degrees. So we know this is a correct answer, but we need to find what other than this one is also pi over 3. Radical 3 over 2. So the first thing we do is for sine, it's always the angle and its supplement. So you need to do 180, or well, pi, because pi equals 180 degrees, minus this. So you do pi minus radical 3 over 2, radical 3, sorry, my bad. And you're gonna get your other angle, because look, when we're looking at the quadrants, sine is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So we need to find the, the supplement of it. So 180 minus pi over 3 is the same as 3 pi over 3 minus pi over 3. You're gonna get 2 pi over 3. So that's your first 2 answers. We found them. Now, since we know both pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3 are correct answers and correct angles that give you radical 3 over 2 when you do sine to them, we now need to find their, like when you go clockwise in the clock, not only when you go counterclockwise. So when you add a full turn or something. So what you do is you take each one of your values and you add to it 2 pi, because that's a full turn. 1 pi is, when you do 1 pi, it's 180. So you need 360 degrees. So it's 2 pi. So you can't add 2 pi when the denominators aren't same, so you make them same denominator. So 2 times 3, yeah. So when you add these, you're gonna get 7 pi over 3. Now you also have to do it for this angle. So 2 pi over 3 plus 6 pi over 3, which is 2 pi, gives you also 8 pi over 3. So you need to see everything with a box is a correct answer. This is correct, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. The sine is a periodic function, by the way, so it doesn't matter how much you add here. So it could be 2 pi or 3 pi, and they're all gonna give you the same, but here they only wanted 2 pi. So 7 pi over, okay, I don't know what's happening with my assistant. So we found the answer 7 pi over 3, 8 pi over 3, and we had the answer pi over 3 memorized because we should, and 2 pi over 3 because we found that by finding the supplement. Now here we have pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, and 7 pi over 3. These are the only ones that are correct. They didn't give us 8 pi over 3, but if they did in the options, it would also be correct. We don't choose any of the negative ones because the negative answers are going to give us a negative sign, and they want it in positive. The other way you could solve it with degrees is converting everything you're solving to degrees. But that's going to take longer, even though it would work. But I'd prefer you solve with radians if they want radians. Now, moving on to the next question. Which of the following has a graph that's symmetric about the origin? When it tells you symmetric about the origin, it means it's an odd function. If it's an odd function, it means that f of negative x should equal f of negative x equals negative f of x. So it means that you should get, I'll show you, if you substitute the x's with 2, so 2 squared over 2 squared plus 1, so you're gonna get 4 over 5. If you get, when you do negative 2 squared, so when you do negative 2 squared over negative 2 squared plus 1, you should get the same answer but negative if it was an odd function. If it's an even function, you'd get the exact same answer with the exact same sign, which here you do. So this is a even function, it's not odd. Now let's try it with this one. 2 over 2 squared plus 2 into 2. You get 2 over 8. If you do it negative 2, so negative 2 over negative 2 squared plus 2 into negative 2, you get negative 2 over 0. First of all, this is wrong. You can't have anything divided by 0. Second of all, this does not look anything like this, so this is not even a function. So this is definitely wrong. This is even. Now here, 2 into 2 is, you can choose any number, by the way. The number you put here doesn't have to be 2, but I find 2 to be the easiest to use. 2 squared plus 1, you're gonna get 4 over 5. Now if we put negative 2, so 2 into negative 2 over negative 2 squared plus 1, you're gonna get negative 4 over 5. Are these the same answer but different signs? Yes. So this is an odd function, so you choose it. So again, 2 over 2 squared plus 1, you get 2 over 5. Negative 2 over negative 2 squared plus 1, you get negative 2 over 5. So you got same answer, opposite signs, so making it odd. Now again, 2 cubed over 2 squared plus 1 gives you 8 over 5. Now negative 2 cubed over 2 squared plus 1, or negative 2 squared plus 1 gives you negative 8 over 5. Same answer, different signs, so this is correct, leaving this to be wrong. Now we move on to the next question, which is asking you which of the following is symmetric about the y-axis. When it tells you about the y-axis, it means they want an even function. So even function, if you put x or negative x, you should get the same answer. So f of x is the same as f of negative x. So let's try it. So 2 cubed over 2 squared plus 1 equals 8 over 5. Is it the same as negative 2 cubed over negative 2 squared plus 1? Here you get negative 8 over 5, making this an odd function, definitely not even. So this is wrong because it's odd. Now here, 2 squared plus over 2 squared plus 1, you get 4 over 5. Here, if you do negative 2 squared over negative 2 squared plus 1, you get also 4 over 5. Are they the same? Yes, they're the same, so this is correct, even. Here, 2 over 2 squared plus 2x. You get 2 over, oh wait, there's no 2x, it's 2 times 2. So 4 plus 4, which is 8, and if you do negative 2, you get negative 2 squared plus 2 into negative 2, which you're gonna get negative 2 over 0, which again, like we said, not even a function. These are not the same, so this is wrong. Now here, 2 over 2 squared plus 1, it's giving you 2 over 5, and negative 2 over negative 2 squared plus 1 gives you negative 2 over 5. So this is again odd, not even. Here, 1 over 2 squared plus 1 is going to give you 1 over 5, and 1 over negative 2 squared plus 1 gives you 1 over 5, making it even. Now we're done with this question. Let's move on. Okay, so for this question, they want us to use the trigonometric ratios, which for cosine and sine is cosine squared x plus sine squared x gives you 1. So here they gave us cosine x, but we can't use cosine x, we have to use cosine squared x. So 12 over 13 squared plus sine squared x equals 1. So this is 144 over 169 plus sine squared x equals 169 over 169, making sine squared x equal to 25 over 169. And that's your answer, because they asked us what sine squared x. Now let's move on. Here again we need to use the same thing, the trigonometric equations, but here we have a different one. Here it tells us if that 1 plus tangent squared x equals secant squared x. So here you need to find the thing that has a square in it and replace it, or you want to keep it all in one term. So secant squared x, we replace it with this, because they're equal to each other, they're the same. So 1 plus tan squared x minus 22 tangent x plus 20 equals 0. Now we need to make like terms together, so I'm just going to remove this from here and replace this with a 1. And now we have, it's like, imagine that there's no tangent, it's just x. Imagine you're working with a normal letter. It's like it's x or y, don't think of it as tangent x. So what you do is, you factor it. So tan x times, plus 21. You need to find which two values, when you multiply them give you 21, and when you add them give you negative 22. Here you can see that negative 21 times negative 1 gives you positive 21, but when you add them they give you negative 22. So tan x minus 21 and 2. And they also gave us a hint that one of the x's is 1, so you need to use this opposite of it, like tan x minus 1. So now to make this 0 equals 0. So to make this 0 you need 21, and to make this 0 you need 1. So x equals 21 and 1. They gave us the answer 1. We have to put the answer 21. Now moving on, we have another question. Okay, now here we have a scatter plot. So the correlation is strong and negative. How do we know? If all the dots are around the same area and they're all around this one line, then it's strong. And if it's going downwards, like from left to right, down, it's negative. So that's how you solve part A. Now part B, the number of hours represented by X and the average by Y, then the equation of the line. They want us to find the equation of this line. So, wait, but can I see something? Okay. So to find the equation, we need to use, again, slope. So we need to find 2 points on the line. Here we have this point, it's on the line, or like it's a distinct point, you can find the slope easy, and this one. So we're gonna use both of these points. We need to write down their coordinates, 12 and 90, and 20 and 60. We need to find their slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 over x1. So 90 minus 60 over 12 minus 20. You're gonna get negative 30 over 8. Or it's 30 over negative 8, but same thing. We can simplify this and it becomes 15 over 4. So that's our slope. Now we need to use y minus y0 equals m into x minus x0. So y minus, you choose only one of these. I'm gonna use this one. You can use any one you want. Actually, you know what? I'll use this one. I find it easier. So y minus 90 equals m, which is negative 15 over 4, into x minus 12. So y minus 90 equals negative 15 over 4x plus 4 goes with the 12, it becomes 345 when you expand this. So now we have this, we need to put y on one side alone. So y equals negative 15 over 4x plus 45 plus 90 gives us 135, and that's your equation. But now we need to make the equation look like the one they gave us. So our equation was y equals negative 15 over 4x plus 135. Here they want the x and the y on the same side, so we're gonna move this from here to here, and they want us to multiply the coefficient of 4. They wanted the coefficient of y, they want it to be 4, so we need to multiply this by 4 and everything else by 4. So times 4 and times 4. So when you multiply by 4, this goes with this, so you remove it. You're left with 15x plus 4y equals 135 times 4, which is 540. That's, what's this rectangle? And that's your final answer. Based on the best fit line, the expected score for a person who spends 12 hours watching TV during the week of the test is, so what you do is, you go to time spent, 12 hours, you go up, you see their grade is 90. And that's your answer. The model letter grade is, what does the model letter grade? It means that the average grade group with the most people who got it is, so we need to see below 60. How many people got below 60? Only 2. How many people got between 60 and 70? This much. How many people got between 70 and 80? This much. How many people got between 80 and 90? This much. How many people got between 90 and 100? This much. When you count the dots, you need to see which group has the most dots in it. Here, by just looking, you can know that here you can see the most good dots between 80 and 90. And any result between 80 and 90 is a B, making the model letter grade a B. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay, for this question, we need to know the derivatives. Given the curve C with an equation of this, the equation of the tangent to the curve at x equals 2 is, so to solve this, sorry, my mic cut. Anyways, so what I was saying before it cut was, to solve this, we need to find the derivative, or we need to derive this equation. How to do that? We do the thing we learned, which is dx over dy. Sorry, I mean dy over dx. If you don't know how to derive, Tariq made a long video about it. You can go and watch that. So 3x into 2 plus 8x, and 10 always derives to 0, or like any constant derives to 0. So this is your new equation. To find the slope, we need to substitute the x by 2. Okay, so when we do that, we're gonna get 3 into 4 plus 8, 16, so 12 plus 16 equals 28. So our slope of the tangent is 28. That's the first box. Now we need to find any point on our curve, or yeah, any point on the curve. So to do this, we need to replace the 2 in the original equation. So let's do that. So 2 power 3 plus 4 into 2 squared plus 10. So we get 8 plus 16 plus 10. We get that our point is 234, because the x is 2, so the y is 34. Now we can get rid of our solving here, and we need to use the point slope theorem. So again, y minus y0 equals m into x minus x0. So y minus 34 equals m, which is 28, into x minus 2. So when you solve this, you get y minus 34 equals 28x minus, let me do it on my calculator, 56. When you move this to the other side, you're going to get y equals 28x minus 56, negative 56 plus 34, you get 22. So that's how you solve for this question. Here you have the exact same answer. So first you derive this equation, and then you substitute in 2. That's how you get your slope. When you get your slope, you find any 2 points by substituting the x into the original equation and finding the y. Then when you find it, you get this point, the 2 points, and you use this equation to find the rest of the equation. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay, so here they're telling you symmetric about the origin of the point. When they tell you symmetric about the origin, it means switch the sign of both the x and the y. So negative 6 becomes 6 and negative 8 becomes 8. 6 and 8. Moving on. Okay, here they want the vertical asymptote. Whenever you see the word vertical asymptote, it means whatever makes your denominator 0. So we forget the numerator exists. Now we need to do 4x minus 40 equals 0. 4x equals 40, x equals 10. And that is your vertical asymptote. Now we move on. So now we need to see the graph of this, and they're asking us for the horizontal asymptote. When they ask us for the horizontal asymptote, we forget any value here and we look at anything with an x. If the x is to the same power, so if it's x, if they're both x powered 1 or x powered 2, if they're both like this, so here you have x and x. If they're like this, what you do is you divide the coefficients by each other. So you do 8 over 2. And that's how you find your horizontal asymptote. Now, to find the vertical asymptote, we said we look at the denominator and it's whatever makes the denominator 0. So 2x minus 4 equals 0. 2x equals 4. X equals 2. That is our answer for the vertical asymptote. So for the y, and now here the next part is asking us for the y-intercept. I told you earlier that when they ask for the y-intercept, we need to find when x is 0. So when x is 0, so y equals x, 0 times 8 is 0 plus 120, so 120 over 2 times 0 is 0 minus 4, so minus 4. So y would equal to negative 30. So when x is 0, y is negative 30. But when when y is 0, that's what the x-intercept is, or when it crosses the x-axis, is you only look at the numerator here because we can't have a denominator that's 0. So 8x plus 120 equals 0, making 8x equal negative 120, making x equal negative 15. And that's how you find the answer to this part in this question. Now let's move on to the next one. Here they're asking us symmetric about the y-axis. When they ask us symmetric about the y-axis, you change the sign of x. So only change this sign and then you keep the y the same. So 6 and negative 8 stays same. Okay, so here they're showing us a graph of a function and they're asking us what's the positive root and what's the negative root. First of all, we need to understand what is a root. A root is the number at the point where the graph touches the x-axis. So we need to look at this axis and we need to see where is the graph touching it at. Here our first root is here. They're touching here, it's at negative 3. And again they're touching here at 4. The positive root is the one that has a positive sign, so 4. And the negative root is the one with a negative sign, so 3. Or negative 3, I mean. So that's it for your answer. And if you didn't have a negative one or if you didn't have a positive one, you type 999. Now we need to solve the next one. Here it's a different type of question. Below is the graph of a function again, but they want what's the smallest root at f of x, or aka y, equals 100. So we need to draw our new x-axis at 100 here. Okay, this line isn't straight, let me make it straight. So here we need to find our new root. So where does it touch the first time? It touches here at the first time, and then here again, and then here once more. So we have 3 roots here. Smallest one being at negative 3, middle one being at negative 1, biggest one being at 7. And that's what they're asking in the question. The smallest root is the one with the smallest one. The middle root is the next, and the largest root is the last part, which is 7. That's how you solve this question. It's really easy. Now, for this question, I'm pretty sure that the question itself is wrong, or they're asking for the wrong thing. So in this question, I think that the answer, it's like the question itself is wrong, and the question they want us to find cosine squared x, not cosine x, because otherwise we can't really solve it. So they want to 2 decimal places. What's the value of cosine squared x if sine x is this and x is between 90 and 180? First of all, we need to understand what does it mean when they tell us x is between, x is between 90 and 180. So here's 0, here's 90, here's 180, and here's 270. And here's 360 again. So it's between 90 and 80. We need to know that all students take chemistry. Here, all of the values are positive. Here, sine is only positive. Here, tangent is only positive. And here, cosine is only positive. So if x is between 90 and 180, it means it's in quadrant 2. Here, only sine is positive, meaning that cosine squared x is a negative number. Now, we need to start solving. We know that cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals 1. This is our trigonometric ratio. So what we do is we need to square this sign and we need to find. So when you do 17, radical 17 over 10, square it, you get 17 over 100. So cosine squared x plus 17 over 100 gives you 1, which is 100 over 100. So, okay, sorry guys, I misclicked on something on the screen. Anyways, I was saying that to find cosine squared x, you do 100, so cosine squared x equals 100 over 100 minus 17 over 100, which is 83 over 100, and negative since cosine is negative. So we can just remove this part. So cosine squared x equals negative 83 over 100, which is the same as negative 0.83. So cosine squared x equals negative 0.83, which is our answer. But if they actually wanted cosine x, then you'd have to put this under the radical sign, and then you'd get negative 0.911 or 0.911 or something like that, if you put it in your calculator. But if they meant cosine squared x, then this is your answer, and this is how you get it. Now, moving on. What's the value of k if 1 plus sine x equals negative cosine squared x? So we know sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. So 1 plus sine x, we're going to replace the cosine x squared here by 1 minus sine x, because here you can rewrite it as cosine squared x equals 1 minus sine squared x. So we're going to replace this by this. So equals negative 1 minus sine squared x. And we need to distribute the negative here. So negative 1 plus sine squared x equals 1 plus sine x. So what we do is we move all of them to one side and make it equal to 0. So 0 equals negative 1 plus sine squared x plus minus sine of x minus 1. So minus 1 plus minus 1 gives us minus 2. So I'm going to move this here and make this minus 2. And remove this. Again, what we do is we act like this is any normal variable and we solve with it. Sine x minus what two numbers when you multiply them give you negative 2, and when you add them give you negative 1. We know that it's 1 and negative 2. So sine x minus 2 into sine x plus 1 gives us 0. So sine x here has to be 2 and sine x here has to be negative 1. So x could be 2 or negative 1. They gave us the negative 1 here, so our only answer left is 2. Okay, so given sine x equals 3 over 5, what's the value of k if cosine squared x equals k over 25? We already solved this in a multiple choice question earlier, but I'm going to solve it quickly again. Sine x plus cosine squared x gives us 1. So this you need to square it, so making it 9 over 25 plus cosine squared x gives us 25 over 25. So cosine squared x equals 16 over 25. Actually, this isn't the one we solved earlier. It's the next question, I think. But anyways, this is how you solve this one. This is the one we solved earlier. Okay. Again, same thing. So you need to square this one. So it becomes 144 over 169 plus sine squared x equals 1, which is 169 over 169. Sine squared x equals 25 over 169. They gave us the 169, we just needed to find k, which is 25. Now, let's move on to the next question. Here they gave us tan of x, and they want us to find secant squared of x. We know that 1 plus tan squared x equals secant squared x. So we need to square this again. So 1 or 25 over 25 plus 49 over 25 gives you secant squared x. You're gonna get 74 over 25. We already solved this in an AMS before, that's why I'm rushing over them, but they're really easy either way. So now, moving on. Here they gave us that sine squared x was 3 over 8, and they want the value of 160 cosine x. So to find the cosine x, we need to do 1, because sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. So 1 minus 3 over 8 gives us cosine squared x. So our cosine squared x equals 5 over 8, because this is the same as 8 over 8. So 5 over 8 times, they want 160 times this. So 160 times 5 over 8, this would become 1, this becomes 20. 20 times 5 is 100. And that's how you solve for this one. Here, based on the line of best fit, a student who studied for 7 hours studied. It's here in between, we need to find out. So since they told us by jumps of 16, but each 16 has 2 blocks, so each mid part would be 8. So 80 plus 8 gives you 88. Here they want the gradient, so we have to derive again by using dy over dx. So you do 4 times 3 into x squared. So 12x squared equals, we need to substitute the x by -2. So 12 into -2 squared is 12 into 4. So it's 48. And that's your answer. It's correct. Now let's move on. Here we have to do the same thing for a polynomial. So we do 3 times 4 is 12x cubed plus 4x minus 4. And we need to substitute every time you see an x with -1. So 12 into -1 cubed plus 4 into -1 minus 4 is the same as -12 plus -4 minus 4. So the same as -12 minus 4 minus 4, which is -20. That's your answer. Now, here, exact same thing. So 6x5/3 minus 24x7/4 and -1. So -6/3, so -2, minus -24/4, which is minus -6. So negative make positive. So -2 plus 6 gives you +4. Now for the last question. Here, when they tell us what is the slope of the tangent to the curve, this is the equation at the point of intersection with the y-axis, what we do is we have to derive from this, and we get 12x cubed plus 11, and any constant becomes 0, so we don't write it in our deriving. So this is your equation. What we do here is we need to replace the x with 0. Every time you see an x, just set it to 0 because it's at the intersection with the y-axis. So 12 times 0 gives you 0 plus 11 equals 11. And that's your slope. And that's it for this quiz today. Hope you understood everything. Have a good day. Bye.